In this video, we'll be replacing the driver's side strut on this 2007 Mazda CX-9. All right, we're going to remove our front wheel. It's going to be a 21 millimeter. So the first thing we're going to do here is remove our wiper arm. There's a cover right here. You can see the break in this plastic. We're going to need to get underneath it. So we're going to use a small flat blade screwdriver and pop up the cover to our wiper arm, which will gain us access to the nut holding the wiper arm in place. Now that nut right here, it's going to be a 14 millimeter. Now your wiper arm is going to come straight up and off, but you can see there's a little bend to it. So what we're going to do is just lift the arm slightly and lift our arm off of the motor here. Now you'll see on the inside there's a little bit of a keyed area where it's going to slide down onto the shaft. So we'll make sure when we put that back in place, we put it in the same direction. So the next thing we're going to do is right here. It's going to be a Phillips head panel clip. So we're just going to lightly use our Phillips to pop that up and a panel tool to lift that clip up and out. Now from here we have this gasket running across the two pieces, so we're going to need to move this gasket up and out of the way. So you can see right here is a point where it's clipped into this plastic. We're going to take that gasket. At that point we're going to pull this way and up. And then we're going to pull the opposite way and up. Pull away and up, and then over and up. You can remove these clips with a panel tool if you want to. They tend to break a lot, so I like to leave them in there. At this point, our gasket's actually ripped here, so this just popped up, but you would do the same here. You can take it a little further if you decide to, or you can leave it right about here. That's all the access we need. We're going to work on removing this panel. Just going to pop it up. Now it will be slid underneath the bottom of your windshield, so we're going to pull it out and up and pull it away. So now we have access to the top of our strut. We can see we have our cap. We'll go ahead and remove our cap, just pull it straight up. Now working on the top, we're going to remove our 4 bolts here. They're going to be 14 millimeter. So now working on our strut here, we have to remove everything from the actual strut itself. We're going to start here with this speed sensor wire. You want to be careful here not to break this clip. All right, we will end up removing the speed sensor here so we don't do any damage. So now we're going to remove our flexible brake hose from our bracket on our strut. Just going to grab a hold of that clip, just work it right off while pulling away. Now you can take your hose, push it back through, and move it out of the way. So now to make sure we don't do any damage to our speed sensor, we're going to remove it. It's going to be a 10 millimeter socket. And luckily, our speed sensor here will just slide right out. Again, this is magnetic, so you want to do your best not to pick up any magnetic shards or anything on the end of that when you go to put it back in. So for us, we're just going to hang our speed sensor well out of the way. So now we have 2 19 millimeter bolts remaining holding our strut to our knuckle. We're going to put a wrench on one side and an impact on the other. So now we're going to work our bolts out. Now this last bolt here on the bottom or top, whichever you decide to take out last, will be the last thing holding your strut in place. Once you remove this bolt, your strut may drop down. You want to be careful not to do any damage to your CV axle boot or your link boot here. So now with your strut loose, we're just going to work it out of the knuckle and out of the vehicle. All right, so we're going to reinstall our new strut. It's going to go in the same way it came out. I'm going to take a little rest on our CV axle here. Take a look at the top. And work our knuckle into the strut. Now right now we're not 100% concerned about the top. We're more concerned about our knuckle matching up to the strut. All right, so we have our knuckle into our strut. And now we'll take a look at the top, get those 4 bolts in. We'll put a small pry bar through here just to hold this in place. So now with our pry bar through and our top bolts in place, we can use this pry bar to move our strut around so we can get our bottom bolt in. So now with our bottom bolt in, we can take our pry bar out. We can send our top bolt in. And now we can thread on our 2 nuts. So now we're going to put our speed sensor clip back into our new strut. Our flexible brake hose, it's going to go through from the back, push in. We're going to take our clip and lock in that hose. And now we're going to reinstall our speed sensor. We're going to check that the end is free and clear of any magnetic debris. Put it back into the knuckle and put our 10mm bolt back in. Go ahead and snug this up and give it an extra quarter turn. Now up on top of the vehicle, we can put our new lock nuts on. And we're going to tighten these down until they stop on their own. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just snug these up now. So now that we have both of our top and bottom bolts snugged up, we're going to raise our suspension to simulate a load on the suspension or the weight of the vehicle on our suspension, and then we'll come back and torque down our bolts. So now with the floor jack, we'll go ahead and put upward pressure on our control arm. So now our top bolts, with our suspension under load, we're going to be torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. And now that we're done with our bolts up top, we can go ahead and put our cap back on, just center it up, press straight down. And now our bottom 2 strut bolts are going to get torqued down to 120 foot-pounds. Now with our bolts torqued down, we can go ahead and lower our front suspension. And remove our floor jack. So So now that we're done in this area here, we can put our cover back on. Now our cover is going to go up underneath our windshield here. Alright, it's going to be a clip in the front as well. Make sure you're nice and flush here. Once that's all set, we can go ahead and put our push clip in place. So now that looks good here. Now we're going to put this piece here into here. Just going to lift it up and over. And push it down and in. There is also a clip on the top here. It's going to need to be set into. Now we can reinstall our gasket. Now our gasket is actually ripped on this attachment point here. So we'll be focusing on these two. We're going to start on the inside. We're going to find that hole, line it up with that clip, push it into one side, and just pull and push down. We'll do the same here. Line it up with that hole, pull, push down. Now this side unfortunately won't go in. So our wiper, first thing we're going to do is place our blade where it should be. We're going to take our arm, we're going to flatten this part a little bit by pressing in, and then we're going to drop our arm onto the actual motor arm. We're going to find the geared slots there and push straight down. So once we're in position, we can take our nut, thread that on, and tighten it down. Before you finish, you want to try and move your arm up or down. You want to make sure you have no extra movement in the bottom. You will have a little movement, but you shouldn't be able to rotate it all the way up or down. Once you're done there, you take your cover and snap it back in. Now we can go ahead and put our wheel back on. Typically when I put a wheel back on, I will do 2 lug nuts top and bottom, and I'll rock it back and forth to try and get it as flat as I can. Sometimes they're a little difficult to get nice and flush. This helps. And then we'll put our other lug nuts back on. We're going to snug them up while we're in the air, and then we'll lower the vehicle to torque them down. So now we're down on the ground, the wheel can't rotate. We're going to torque down our lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds, and we're going to do it in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.